What?
Yeah, they don't want me to be a champion. They don't want it.
What do you...
Compliment them on a great day and a great drive. They were really good. There was a lot of...
It's incredible. The one time you win the regular season, they get rid of it. That is Denny Hamlin speaking on his Actions Detrimental podcast, reacting to the news that the NASCAR Cup Series regular season championship has been eliminated. His co-host Jared called the decision the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Hamlin currently leads the championship standings by 68 points with 4 wins and 5 races remaining before the chase begins. Under the new rules, that 68-point advantage becomes a 25-point advantage the moment the postseason starts. To understand why that number matters so much to Denny Hamlin right now, you have to start with the race that produced it. On July 19, 2026, the NASCAR Cup Series ran the Window World 450 at North Wilkesboro Speedway. This was not an exhibition. North Wilkesboro was reintroduced to the sport in 2023 and hosted the All-Star race for 3 consecutive years, but Sunday marked the first points-paying Cup Series race at the .625-mile oval since 1996. 30 years of absence ended with a full-distance 450-lap event that counted toward the championship. The driver who controlled it was Joey Logano. The Team Penske driver led 323 of the 450 laps and ended the longest winless streak of his career since May 2025. For the number 22 Ford, it was a complete performance. But Logano later explained that the race was considerably harder than the final margin suggested. Speaking on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio's program Behind the Wheel with Joey Logano, the 3-time Cup Series champion described the night as a strategic contest rather than a straightforward speed advantage. Logano said he identified his main threat early and never lost track of him. I knew we had a solid car the whole race. I didn't have to race the No 11 that much early on, but Coleman did a great job of keeping me updated on who was fast. It seemed like the No 11 was going to be the car closest to us, Logano said. That assessment held for the entire event, from the opening stage to the closing laps. The car chasing the number 22 was the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota of Denny Hamlin. There was a stretch of the race where Hamlin fell approximately 4 seconds behind, and Logano was clear that the gap was not created by a lack of speed. It was created by track position. The run before, he fell about 4 seconds behind us. But that was only because he didn't have the track position to start the run. He had to get by the No. 77, who fired off really well and was probably the fastest car for the first 5 to 8 laps. By the time he finally cleared him, he'd used up his tires and was 4 seconds back. He kind of maintained that gap, and I felt like we were in a pretty good spot. That single sequence explains the structure of the entire race. Hamlin lost time behind a car that launched well on fresh tires, spent laps clearing it, and paid for those laps with tire wear he could not recover. The deficit was not 4 seconds of pace. It was 4 seconds of circumstance, and at a short track with limited passing opportunities, circumstance is difficult to reverse. The decisive moment arrived on the final restart when both cars lined up together on the front row. Then we restarted on the front row together for the final run, and it became a heads-up battle. I felt like whoever got the lead was going to win the race. We got a good start, cleared him, and then it turned into a bit of a cat-and-mouse game, Logano said. From there, the two drivers managed their pace against each other rather than racing flat out. He was trying to make me push harder, and I was managing my pace. Eventually, I was able to build about a 1.5-second lead, and it stayed there. The Joe Gibbs Racing team then attempted the one move available to them. Crew chief Chris Gabehart brought the number 11 car to pit road 1 lap earlier than the leader during the green flag cycle, hoping to use fresh tires to leapfrog the number 22. Logano described the result from his side. Then we had the green flag pit cycle. He short-pitted us by a lap, but we came out right in front of him. After that, it was more of the same. We were playing that cat-and-mouse game again, and I was able to pull away enough to feel comfortable. Hamlin described the same sequence from inside the number 11 car, and his version confirms how close the strategy came to working. After we short-pitted him by 1 lap, I saw him on the apron coming out of pit road. I actually thought he had a bigger lead than he really did. I loved the call from Chris Gabehart. We were trying to get out in front of him because when you're racing a car that's about equal in speed, getting track position can change everything. He then added the detail that defines the margin of the entire race. If we had gotten ahead, I could have made his car handle worse by driving defensively. We tried, but we just weren't quite good enough. If he had stayed out one more lap, we would have jumped ahead of him. There was a window where Hamlin believed the leader was catchable. It lasted about 10 laps. For the first 10 laps after he came out of the pits and I was right on his bumper, I thought he looked a little more vulnerable. At that point, I was thinking maybe, because the track stayed rubbered in during the green flag stop, his car wasn't reacting as well as it normally would. His reasoning was based on how the racing surface behaves under different conditions. Usually after cautions, the track gets cleaned up because everyone drives slowly and the tires pick up the rubber that's on the racing surface. I thought maybe that's why he had been so strong earlier when the track was cleaner. Even inside that window, Hamlin could not attack without consequences. I could stay close enough to keep him honest, but it was a fine line. I felt like if I pushed any harder, I would have had nothing left once we got into heavy traffic. So I just stayed there, and he'd pull away by about 6 inches each lap. Traffic did briefly complicate the leader's night. Then I caught his teammate, which wasn't ideal. I had to move all over the track trying to get by him, but once I finally cleared him, I was able to stretch the gap again. Over the long run, our car was definitely a little better than the No. 11, and having clean air helped too, Logano said. Hamlin's own summary of the night removed any ambiguity about the speed of the winning car. I thought the 22 was just exceptional. It didn't seem like he was super line dependent, he said, noting that the grip in the number 22 allowed Logano to attack corners from multiple grooves. Joey was able to be really aggressive, especially on restarts with it, he added. And on the realistic path to victory, Hamlin was direct. I thought if we were going to win, we were going to have to steal it. It would have taken him getting caught in traffic or something like that. We were just second best. What happened after the checkered flag was notable because of the history between these two drivers. Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano are former teammates whose rivalry has produced multiple confrontations across more than a decade, including a scuffle at Bristol Motor Speedway in 2013 and post-race mockery at Martinsville Speedway in 2019. Short tracks have historically been where their disagreements surfaced. North Wilkesboro produced the opposite outcome. Hamlin spent much of the night directly behind the number 22 without making contact, and after an extended celebration, he walked to Logano on pit road. The two shared a handshake and a thumbs up. Sunday's finish was only the 6th time Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano have finished first and second in a Cup Series race, with each driver owning 3 victories in those head-to-head results. Hamlin's post-race assessment was straightforward, just wildly impressive, he said. I thought it was a really impressive drive from him. Maneuvered through traffic really well, did everything that we know Joey to do. Logano returned the acknowledgement regarding the closing stage of the race. The last run was definitely tougher, he said. I ran harder than I wanted to early in the run when Denny was putting the pressure on us. Our weakness was the short run. He got to us. I had to run pretty hard there. Both drivers are in the later stages of long careers, and on this night the exchange consisted of acknowledgement rather than confrontation. That second-place finish extended Hamlin's championship lead to 68 points. It also set up the story that has dominated his commentary since, because the trophy attached to that lead no longer exists. NASCAR has removed the regular season championship from the Cup Series. There is no longer a trophy and no official recognition for the driver who finishes first in the standings across the opening portion of the season. That change is one part of a broader overhaul of the championship system. The playoff points bank, which drivers accumulated through race wins and stage victories, has been scrapped entirely. The elimination-style playoff rounds are also being discontinued. What replaces all of that is a format similar to the former chase system. The championship will be decided over the final 10 races, with the driver who scores the most points by the end of the race at Homestead-Miami Speedway becoming the Cup Series champion. The top 16 drivers will still qualify for the postseason, but they will begin with staggered starting points rather than a full reset to an identical figure. The regular season leader will start on 2,100 points, which is only 25 points ahead of the rest of the playoff field. NASCAR has also increased the value of winning. A race winner will now earn 55 points, and a driver who wins both stages and the race can collect a maximum of 76 points in a single event. Applied to the current standings, the arithmetic is direct. Denny Hamlin leads by 68 points today. When the chase begins, that lead becomes 25 points. Roughly 43 points of advantage earned across the first portion of the season is removed by the format itself. That is the entire basis of his complaint. Hamlin delivered it on the Actions Detrimental podcast alongside co-host Jared. They don't want me to be a champion. I'm pretty sure, Jared, that as part of the press release for the new playoff format, the regular season title is gone. So there is no regular season champion anymore. Jared responded by calling the decision the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Hamlin then added the line that has circulated most widely since. It's incredible. The one time you win the regular season, they get rid of it. The change has divided opinion across the Cup Series. Some argue that removing the regular season championship reduces the value of consistent performance across the first 26 races, rewarding a strong 10-race stretch over a season-long body of work. Others argue that the revised format produces a closer championship battle during the final 10 races, that a 10-race points battle is a more complete test than a single-race finale, and that the increased value of wins prevents the format from becoming an exercise in points management. Hamlin has said he still believes his team is positioned to contend. If we can keep this momentum going and avoid bad luck, I think it'll be hard for the field to catch us. The season behind that statement supports it. Denny Hamlin has 4 victories in 2026. His first came at Las Vegas in March, followed by 3 consecutive wins at Nashville, Michigan, and Pocono. He owns an average finish of 3.64 on non-drafting oval tracks, a level of consistency not recorded since Richard Petty achieved a similar mark in 1977. In the current standings, Tyler Reddick sits second, 68 points behind, and Ryan Blaney is third, 87 points behind. All 3 drivers have clinched spots in the chase, with 5 races remaining until the postseason begins. This is Denny Hamlin's 21st full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he has not won a championship. There is also a timeline attached. Hamlin has indicated that 2027 could be his final season, depending on how circumstances develop at Joe Gibbs Racing, and has said the organization has already begun preparing for the future with sufficient notice from him. The strongest car of his career is arriving in one of the final years he expects to have one, under a format that compresses the advantage he has built. The final open question from the weekend concerns the racetrack itself. The 2027 NASCAR schedule remains unsettled, and North Wilkesboro Speedway's future position on it has not been determined. Hamlin addressed the subject on Actions Detrimental without committing to a specific outcome. I don't know. I mean, I'm for a race at North Wilkesboro. How about that? That's where I'll stand on it, he said, stopping short of stating whether it should be another points-paying event. His technical assessment was more detailed. It's a racy track. It reminds me a lot of Bristol. When they changed Bristol from its one groove track and then they reconcreted it, put variable banking, they ground it. Next thing you know, we were racing all around Bristol from the bottom to the top, Hamlin said. He then identified the split between what competitors want and what audiences responded to at the 0.5-mile track. I can tell you from a competitor standpoint, we were like, this is freaking awesome. Every lane runs the same speed, so if you're faster, you just go to a different lane, and the fans hated it. That's why they ended up grinding the very top of the racetrack, because they wanted to get us off the top, he said. Applying that history to North Wilkesboro, Hamlin made his position on any future modifications clear. I feel like it's sort of like this, where the drivers probably like it because you've got some options. There's a little bit less contact just simply because you got so much more room to move around, but if you narrowed up that racetrack, passing would be extremely difficult, he said. His argument is that the multiple grooves reduced contact by giving drivers room, and that narrowing the surface would remove the passing that made the race work. So the weekend produced 3 outcomes that will shape the rest of the 2026 season. Joey Logano ended a winless streak dating back to May 2025 and secured valuable position for the number 22 Team Penske team heading into the second half of the year. Denny Hamlin extended a 68-point championship lead that the sport's new rules will reduce to 25 points at the start of the chase. And NASCAR rewrote the definition of its championship with 5 races remaining before that championship begins, eliminating the regular season title, the playoff points bank, and the elimination rounds in a single announcement. Under the new system, with everything decided across 10 races ending at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Which of the 16 qualifying drivers finishes the season as NASCAR Cup Series champion is now a genuinely open question. And whether Denny Hamlin, in his 21st full-time season, converts the best statistical campaign of his career into the title that has escaped him is the question the next several months will answer.